Hello, darlings. Welcome to the Ariel show. How is it going? Is life good? I hope it's good. And if not, I know it will get better for you. So hold on, hang in there. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the ways that I self-published my book. I'm sorry if I'm talking about my book a lot. Actually, I'm not. I worked really hard on it. I'm going to keep talking about it. But I did get a lot of questions from those of you who were interested in the whole self-publishing process. And I know that when I was looking to self-publish my book, I was on YouTube all the time watching these videos of how other people ended up doing it, how it went for them, what their potential pitfalls were. And I know we have so many creative, brilliant people watching this show that I wanted to make sure that I covered some of these topics today. So that way, if you want to write a book and you want to self-publish, you know kind of what to do, you know the steps. So let's dig in. So let me begin by saying the reason I wanted to self-publish is because I knew I could control the entire process. A control freak like myself really loved the idea of doing everything on my own terms. Also, my band has had experience being with a label and kind of knew how that worked, releasing a project. And then when we did it on our own with our third album, when it was crowdfunded, it was such a more amazing, enjoyable experience. And I loved having final say on everything. So I felt confident that going into this, I could figure this out. And I did figure it out, but there was a lot of question marks along the way, a lot of like gray areas, a lot of stuff that took longer than I thought, a lot of stuff that like didn't work the way it was supposed to. And I hope that just by sharing some of this stuff, it will be helpful to you. That being said, I knew I wanted my book to be competitive with a book that was on an actual publisher. I didn't want my book to look homemade. I didn't want it to read homemade. I didn't want someone to see it and be like, yeah, that chick self-published. So that was very important to me. And I knew that going into this, that I'd have to do a little bit of research. I'd have to spend more money. I'd have to put the time in to make sure this was a high quality end product. And I'm really happy with the results. So what I first began with was simply finding an editor. The way that I did this was I Googled freelance editor. And a freelancer is someone who can take on projects as they come. So that's like usually the word that you want to put when you're an independent person looking for other independent collaborators. An editor is going to go through the book and make sure that stuff is spelled correctly, that you're not missing words, that stuff logically makes sense. And then I also needed not just an editor to do like the grammar and spelling, but to actually make sure that the book was flowing. I'd never written a book before and I hadn't received a lot of feedback. So I paid someone to go through and figure out for me where it was kind of like unnecessary, where it was going down a rabbit hole it didn't need to go in. My editor had me cut a lot of stuff. She had me restructure a lot of stuff. And I kind of hated this process. It kind of sucks when you think you're done and then I'd like get her emails back and be like, oh Lord, like there was so much I had to rearrange and you know, and she ended up being right. I really agreed with her with so much of the stuff where I was like, thank God this woman came along and helped me with this. So I ended up finding her through a freelance company and she did a great job for me. It took several months, way longer than I thought. I wanted it to be done in a couple weeks and it just took forever. And so for my next book, I know I'm going to start this whole process a year and a half out before I want the release date. That would have saved me so much stress because literally if you think you can just knock things out and get them done like I do, it still took longer than I expected. Even though I was hustling on it, I was on top of the ball, stuff just took forever. So that's a little tip for you. And then the next thing that was so freaking important to me was the cover. I knew that people judge a book by its cover, as do I, and I know that a good cover is everything, and a bad cover like will break your book in a bad way. And so the front and the back, it was so important to me. And the way that I found my cover designer is I went on Amazon and I looked in self-help books and I just screenshotted a bunch of books that I thought were beautiful. And then I started emailing the authors to try to see who did their cover design. I also went through the books that I had lying around at home and like saw who these interior designers were, who the editors were, and I looked some of them up and some of their rates were like crazy out of my budget, so I didn't even bother with those. But I was able to get a response back from Kara Alwell-Leba, and her husband designs all her books, and I thought they were very beautiful. And I ended up using her husband, Ryan, to do my cover, and he did an amazing job for me. I've gotten so much fantastic feedback on the quality of the cover, and I'm so happy with it. On that note, I had to get photography also for the picture as well, and all the press photos, all the promo photos that you've been seeing. That was a photo shoot that we did with someone here locally in Nashville, and so that was like another step, something that you have to figure out. Like even the copy that you put on the back, the author bio, do you want a barcode? I made up a publisher name, Happy Hurts Publishing. Like I literally went into Canva, which is a free like Photoshop-ish software, and designed my publisher label because I thought the book would look more legit if it had a publisher logo on there and a publisher name. And I had a woman who works for Random House come to my book launch party the other day, and she like loved that part. She was like, that is so brilliant that you made up your own publishing name and made sure to put the logo on there because then it just looks more legit. A lot of times as a reader, you're not going to know what to look for in the book. You know, your brain isn't going to be like, oh, there's no publishing logo on that, but it will just feel a little bit more DIY if some of that important stuff is missing. So if you want a professional looking book, you're gonna need to source books that you love and make sure that all those elements are in there. You know, how do you want the inside to be formatted? Do you want, like, look at this. So I've got the giant words of the text for the chapter. That was intentional. It's the same font as in here. Then I had to do the lines for all the questions that I'm asking. In the back, you know, this took forever getting these, like, taken out from my journals, scanning them in, making them look right. Like, we went back and forth on this a lot. We were originally gonna put them in the middle of the book as they appeared. We realized that looked too choppy. Like, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. Okay, so then lastly thing I want to cover is kind of like the way that you actually print your books. And so me going into this, I knew that I needed it to be on Amazon. It was very important to me because I knew that Amazon is a discovery platform. That's how a lot of people find new books. I knew it was important to be linked to other personal development books, so that way people who are passionate about self-growth, self-development could find my book, even if they weren't fans or familiar with me as an artist or my band or whatever. So in order to go through Amazon, you had to kind of figure out like what that looks like. And you guys know on my pre-order release day, Amazon was a nightmare to work with, but we figured it out. But I am printing the books currently through CreateSpace. So CreateSpace is the one option, Ingram Spark is the other one. I was inclined at first to go with Ingram Spark because I guess they make the pre-order process a lot less painful than it was for me, and they print really high quality books. However, I did my research and learned that CreateSpace apparently, who knows if we can validate this, is favored by Amazon. And so you obviously want the Amazon Prime option, you want Amazon to send your books out quickly, and CreateSpace, it's so great because they print on demand, so they'll make one book at a time. And then I also ordered for them for my personal online shop, took those to our fulfillment company here in Nashville, so they're shipping those out when it's orders from our personal websites. So I know that's a lot, I know it's a lot of information, but I would have been very grateful for this kind of information going into it. So I hope this is helpful to you if you're considering writing a book. And so on that note, leave me a comment if you've been thinking or if you've ever wanted to write a book and kind of what you would write about. I love seeing your tweets and you're like, I'm working on this awesome dragon fiction piece, or yeah, I'm starting to write this memoir about my mom's journey with cancer. Like, it's really cool to connect with you guys about the kind of creations that you want to make. And then sometimes I've seen a couple years later, you send me a picture of the book completed, you know, and that's like really powerful that you guys are following through with your ideas and you're making these things happen. Please leave me a comment, like this episode, make sure you're subscribed. Huge thank you to all my Patreon supporters. You guys are the best. All right, that's what I have for you today. All my authors out there, I love you. You're incredible. Let's make amazing art and share it with the world. Bye.